All right. Well, this morning we are starting our brand new series. And before we get into it, we just asked some kids this week what matters most to them. And when I was a kid, what I would probably say would be three things. They would be my stuffed toy dog called Rufus that I dragged around for about 12 years, and he had all kinds of beautiful scents and different things connected to his fluff. And then it would be my mum's cooking. And if you guys haven't experienced my mum's cooking, I tell you, it is something else. It's definitely one of my favorite things. And the other thing would have been my life-size playhouse that my dad built me. It even had a bunk in it that I could sleep in there with my friends sometimes. So those were some of what mattered most to me when I was a kid. And this morning, before we get into it, I want you to turn to the person next to you and tell them what you think mattered most to you as a kid. So introduce yourself and share what it was. Whoops. Slipping out. All right, I hope that there were some pretty awesome things, some cool stories, and we can share them after lunch as well. So, did you know that the walking billboards that we had this morning from Molly and Nate is actually every single one of us? We might not be wearing that morph suit, but every day when we walk around in life, we are a walking billboard of what mattered most to us in the past, of what matters to us in the future, and what matters to you at the moment. What do you think that your billboard for life is saying? If people were to write on the back, what would they say about you and your life and what matters most to you? It's an interesting thought, and actually when I was thinking what matters most to people, I Googled it, as we all do, and there was a company, and an international company called Move Hub, and they'd actually done the research for us, and from 2011 all the way till last year, over 5 years, they collected what mattered most to people from all different countries around the world, and they came up with a few things, and the first was, in Europe, we can see here, the thing that mattered most to them, it's rated by the colours, but it was health and life satisfaction. And then there was, in South America, mattered most to them was education. That was the thing that most people said. And then lastly, what matters most to us in New Zealand, here we are, we just made it on the screen. But we said life satisfaction is actually the thing that matters most to most people here. And I'm sure you'd all agree, and you'd probably say something similar. And lucky for you, today I have brought some of the things that matter most to me. So in my house here, I have a picture of my friends. And I would say that they're right up there with what matters most to me. And another thing is my family. I have 3 fantastic brothers, 2 lovely parents. And they're on the list, as well as what matters most to me now. So it's changed from the soft toy dog, only just. And it is living a life of purpose. So in this journal, in this diary, I write down the goals I have, the aspirations for life, and that hopefully one day I'll be able to do something that makes a difference and has a purpose for something bigger than myself. You're thinking about it, I'm sure, that when you look at what matters most to you now, if you were to tell someone, it would be very different to what you said from when you were a child. And today, we're going to be looking at our brand new series called What Matters Most. So throughout the next few weeks, we want to invite you guys, if you haven't been here before, if this is your first time, this is what you can look forward to. We're going to be sharing a journey together of how to dream wildly, how to love recklessly, live amazingly, and how we're just going to journey through it together until we can lead courageously and live this life of what really matters to us. So we're excited that you're here for the very start of it, and I'd love it if you would invite your friends and family for the rest of it, because it's going to be good. So today I wanted to show you where I live. This is my house, and as you can see, it's not much, but it's very cozy. Sometimes it's a bit drafty in here, but it's okay. I live in a good neighborhood. I can look around. People usually come and visit me here, and I've heard that Sunny Nook is actually the up-and-coming place on the market, so lucky I got in quick. And I have the things that matter most to me. I have my pictures of my friends and family, and sometimes they come visit me here, and we have a meal and we hang out. And some people say that it's not really enough, but I guess I'd say life's pretty good in here. It's not bad, and I'm safe, I have enough, and the best news is that it's small, so I can keep it tidy, which is a hard feat for me. But I guess, home is where people are comfortable, right? And I'm pretty comfortable here, although sometimes it feels like a few people are staring at me through my window. But although I love living in these walls, I was in here one day and I was just flicking through scripture, and I read this verse that kind of unsettled me a little bit, and it kind of made me like, I do love it here, but when I read this verse, I was like, ugh, do I really? And I'll share it with you guys because I don't really know how I feel about it, but it made me consider maybe there's more to my home. So we can find the verse in John 10, verse 10, and it says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. But I have come that they may have life and have life abundantly." Jesus wanted to give me a life of abundance, and when I read this, I thought, man, that's even what he came for. And I was excited, I suppose, but I was also thinking, I guess this little house could be a little bit better, or is this abundance? I wasn't really sure, and I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, are any of us actually living a life of abundance? Or are we just settling for ordinary? The verse sounds good to me, but actually when I read it, I realized there was a problem. And the problem is that there was two contradicting people in this verse. One was the thief, and he came to kill, steal, and destroy. And the other is Jesus, who came to give us life and life in abundance. So here I am, here we are in the middle, and which one are we going to choose? I thought about it, and I thought, if the thief wants to steal and rob from me, from my health, from all the things that all of us listed, from our life satisfaction, our education, but more than that, what if he wants to steal from me and from you our relationships, our dreams, our joy, and what God has actually called us to be? From day one, there has been a consistent contention for God's attention in our life. And that's a bit wordy, but think of it like this. From the very beginning in Genesis, there was this battle. God created Adam and Eve and the way they were supposed to live, and there was a battle there between living a life in abundance and living with a life that has been robbed. Then we look at the verse where Jesus is sharing, and the battle was still going on. There was still a battle between, living a life of abundance or not. And then today, when we look at our lives, I'm pretty sure we can say there's still a battle going on today. And this unsettled me. I'm sure it unsettles you too. And, sometimes you can hear those small voices and their voice saying, come on, do you really think God is going to offer you anything else of all people? Do you really think you have more and that you're even worth more? Do you really think you could be happier? I think you should just stop trying and settle. Do you want people to talk about you for being the one who always tried? Just settle for this. This is it. Have any of you heard those whispers in your life? Because I know I sure have. The enemy doesn't want us to fulfill this dream that God has for us, and that's the battle we're facing. God says he's come to give us life and life in abundance, but that's actually the last thing on the enemy's to-do list. He will do anything to rob from us. And in this verse, we see that the thief has come to steal, kill, and destroy. We say the enemy and the thief, and the guy I'm actually talking about here is the dude who ruins everything. And we're always so PC, and we call him, the bad guy or whatever, like it's a superhero movie. But what it actually is he's this liar He teaches us false belief. He steals from us. He destroys us. Even Jesus himself in this verse calls him the destroyer. I think we need to call him out for what he is. And I realize that not only do we not call him out for what he is, we end up accommodating him. We sort of make room in our little house for him to live in with us. And he makes us think, this is just the way life is supposed to be. We're supposed to be sharing our space with him. And you're not actually supposed to aim for anything more in life. But let me tell you today, these are all lies. Do you know that the thief actually has no right to steal from us? We're not even his. Jesus himself said, I have come so that they, meaning you and I, may have life and have it to the abundance and fullest. When Jesus died on the cross, he took away all authority from the thief. And he has no authority. And in fact, if he is stealing from us and if he is coming into our home, he's just a trespasser. And the thing is, we actually have to be aware of that to stop allowing him to just weasel his way in. We have to stop allowing him to find the little gaps and come through the windows into our life. But the thing is, how do we do that if we don't even know who he is and if we're not even aware of how he's getting in? The thief that we're talking about, the enemy, he can come in so many different shapes and forms, so many different voices in our life for each of us. So here are some of them, and maybe you'll relate to a few. When you listen to the voice of other people's opinions instead of God's voice, he couldn't be happier because he is the voice of false beliefs. When you put your dreams on the shelf and you think this is it for my life and you settle for mundane, you lose your whole purpose God gave you, then the thief is stoked because that's exactly where he wants you to be. When you rely on other substances to supposedly bring you joy or happiness instead of him, then he's hit a home run. When you compare yourselves to other people and you rate yourself on your success and your looks by someone else, then he's already have you exactly where he wants you because he's the comparison trap. He's the false teacher that we all listen to and we fill our minds with daily. He's the beliefs we think about ourselves when we look in the mirror, about your self-worth. When you cease to stop truly living and just exist, he is stoked. When he steals the joy from your marriage, that it purely just exists or it ends altogether. When he takes the passion from your work and then you have to force yourself to get up every single day. Or when he turns your ministry into a chore. When he tells you that you have to please others and that you'll never amount to anything on your own. When you have to be tough and survive because that's just what life's like. When you allow yourself to be defined by the mistakes of your history rather than the destiny God has for you. When you just settle for being a victim in life and you think, I'll never amount to anything more. And when he makes you think, I'm such a bad parent, I don't even know why I try. This is the thief we're talking about. Have you ever met him before? Because I sure have. But the fact is, the saddest thing is, sometimes we're not even aware that we've been robbed. Do you know that in our life, so often we're living with our door to our heart and our life wide open, that the thief can just waltz in at any given moment in time? Did you know that? He can take whatever he wants when the door's open. In fact, he didn't even have to break in. He can steal your relationships, your zeal for life, your passion. The thing is that is saddest is, like many of us, we don't even realize that he actually sucked it away a long time ago, months ago, years ago. We didn't even notice. We just keep running on empty because we kind of thought, well, this is the new normal. But today, I want to tell you, it's not the new normal, and it's not the way God intended you to live. You know, Satan's plan of attack, this thief, this enemy, his plan of attack is to do it so slowly that you don't even realize. And not only do you not realize, you begin to think that you do this yourself, that these are your choices that you're making. In fact, he loves it when we think it's our own idea. that when we've convinced ourselves that adults just don't dream anymore, and so we should just stop being so ridiculous and just do what we were supposed to do. He is stoked when we think that way, because then the thief becomes us. It all sounds like pretty bad news when I look at that verse and everything I've said, and you maybe feel doom and gloom. But it's okay, because there's a second half to that verse. So yes, the thief has come to steal and kill and destroy, but the most important part is the second part of that verse. It says, I, meaning Jesus, have come that they, meaning you and I, may have life and have it abundantly. Jesus has a plan for us, and the plan isn't anything we just mentioned. The plan is a life to the fullest and of abundance, and it doesn't happen without our participation. You know, you might think, okay, well, I'll sit here and wait, and I'm open to God doing his part, but it isn't actually us sitting here and waiting. He's actually saying, fight for it. Get invested in your life. Dream again. Is this what you want? Like, set goals. Do something about it. The thief's plan, he wants to contain us in this little house and make us think that it's not so bad and that we can make a home here. He wants to keep me in this house and make me believe that this is all there is to life. He wants to keep you and I in here so that we can't actually see the plans that God has for us outside of these walls. The things that the thief uses to contain me in here is the things that I have already let in. My insecurities, my doubts, my fears, my frustrations, my guilt, and the lies I keep believing. He wants me to feel small, to feel intimidated, to feel that if I step outside of these walls, it's so dangerous. Who knows what will happen? Who knows how people will judge me, that this is the only safe place to be. But how we respond to those false beliefs and those lies determines how we're going to live the next step. Before long, these restrictions of this little house that we live in, this confinement, ends up being our safety net. And you know, if it's not already, it soon will be. And you think, yeah, but I'm safe in here. I'm happy in here. Things are fine in here. I have what matters most. But are you really living the life you were meant to live? Why do you think we settle for that? Why do you think I settled for that in my life? To live inside these walls, to be confined. I thought this place was good, but maybe there's something greater out there. You know, I was reading a book by a pastor that I love. His name's Judas Smith, and I think a story he said in there really defines it well, defines our life well. And he was saying that he's not a really mechanical guy. He's not into cars and motorbikes and things like that, but he decided that he was going to buy a souped-up golf cart for him and his family. So this is his version of a souped-up golf cart. He planned on going to the letterbox with it and maybe take his kids for a ride up the street. So when he got it, he said he took 3 hours to figure out how to put gas in it. That's how onto it he was with these kinds of things. And so anyway, he finally figured it out, and then he took it for a ride up the road. And he lives in the city, so he just went up the middle of suburbia, as you do, and when he took it for a ride, he noticed that it was jerky when he changed the gears, it was bumpy when he was driving down the road, and it was really loud. And so he came back and he was gutted because he'd just bought it. So he called up some of his friends and he's like, hey guys, I've just bought this thing and it's not working well. I don't really know how to fine tune it. I've tapped a few things, but that's about it. So his friends come over, they jumped in it and they went for a ride, and they came back a minute later just smiling ear to ear, and they were just like, this thing's amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. It runs fine. And he's like, yeah, but what about that it's so loud, and what about that it's like bumpy and the gears are jerky? And they're like, do you actually know what this thing is? And he's like, yeah, it's an ATV. It's a souped up golf cart. What about it? And he's like, do you know what ATV stands for? It stands for all-terrain vehicle. You know why these tires are so big? You know why it has roll cage? You know why it has such a big engine? He had no idea. And his friend said, okay, jump in, let me take you for a ride. They found a dirt road and they took off and they hit the gas and really showed him what it was made for. And he says that he was petrified and his eyes were definitely opened. But the thing about that story is it kind of relates to our life, because he was only driving it and using it for half its potential. He stole the joy out of what one of those are actually meant to be, and he believed that something was wrong with it. But who had told him something was wrong with it? And who had told him, just to use it to that limit? No one had, and the same is true with our lives. Who's told us to only use half of our potential, or who's told us that this is all we are made for, and to keep us living our faith in these little confined areas? Who put a lid on your potential? I thought about it and I thought, that's exactly our life, and so we know that, but how do we even get out of this situation? What's the way out? How do I get out of this confined little box and stop living life at half speed? And lucky for us, Jesus offers the answer, and it's simple. He says it's simply to decide to invite Jesus into our home, no matter how small and confined it is. You invite Jesus into our home, being our lives and our heart. And once we do, once he comes and lives with us, he rules in our life. And so there's actually no room for anyone else. There's no room for the trespasser, and there's no authority for anyone else but him, and he makes the rules. And he's the one who says, let's live a life of abundance. The way I see it is Jesus gives us two options. One, we can choose, okay, who has the authority here? Do we want to give it to the thief and let him steal, kill, and destroy all of our plans? Or do we want to give it to Jesus, who says, hey, I'll give you a life of abundance? I think even if you asked a 5-year-old that, they'd know the right answer. But yet we keep struggling with it daily. We think you can't do this on your own, and you can only do it with, other people's help. But the fact is, you can't do it on your own, and you can do it with someone's help, and that someone is Jesus. He offers you freedom, and in that freedom you can choose. Will you choose to step outside of these little walls that are confining us? And will you tell the thief where his place exactly is? Because once we do, something beautiful happens. This beautiful exchange starts to take place in our life. And Jesus did the same thing. He exchanged his very own life for ours, just so that we could live the life he intended and become the person he intended us to become. Jesus is holding out this gift, this opportunity to live life to the fullest, and he's been holding it out from day one. We're just stuck in that battle trying to decide which one to choose, and it's time to make a move. Yeah, there's false beliefs out there. There's people who will say you're not worth anything, you won't amount to anything. There's people telling you what your self-worth is and what your identity is. But even though all that's out there, you have an opportunity to choose God. And if he's for you, who will be against you? If we could live with him, he will offer you a life more abundant than anything you've ever dreamed yourself. You see, God is the one who gave us that dream in the first place. He set the standard of how we should live. He did it all the way back in creation, and he's doing it now. He says the standard is a life of abundance and nothing else. He's waiting eagerly. He's hit the ball into our court, and he's waiting to see if we decide to pick it up and to hit it back. But if you're still not sure and you need more convincing, luckily there's one more line in this verse. It's found in John 10 and 11. It says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives life to his sheep. Just in case you weren't sure who was offering this gift to you, he says it's me, the good shepherd. And any good farmer or a shepherd knows that if you want to look after your herd, your flock, whatever you've got, if you want to look after them best, you have to know what is best for them. And he says, I will provide you with everything you need. I will lead you to the good pastures in your life. And then he says, not only will I do that, I'm willing to lay down my life for my sheep, to live life to the max. And that's what he did for us. Jesus was using this illustration to say, hey guys, do you think if I did this for my sheep, how much more will I do it for you? I love my sheep. I care for them. But I love and care for you more. I lay down my life for you. He says, this is what I can offer you. I can offer you so much more than you just fending for yourself and allowing the thief to run your life. The Good Shepherd knows what's best for us because he's the one who cares for us. And there's a song that I love, and it's by a guy called NF, and it says, he wrote a song, and it's called Oh Lord, and he says, everybody's going to die, but not everybody really lives, though. And when I think about it from sitting inside these confined walls of my little house, I think, am I really living? Sure, everyone's going to end up dying at some stage, but are we living? From the moment I heard that song, it's always stuck in my head because I've realized that, we don't all end up living, and we don't all end up living the life God intended for us. At the beginning, we had our walking billboards come out, and they, the story that we're saying with our life is a billboard. And if you think about your own life, what do you think it's displaying? Do you think that currently the way you're walking around with your billboard, it's displaying a life of abundance? And if not, why? Maybe it's because you're listening to the wrong voice. Will you continue to allow the thief to rob you? Will you continue to let him steal whatever matters most to you, whether it's your relationships or your job or your passions or whatever it is? Are you going to keep giving it to him, or will you say enough is enough and start really living the way God intended for you to? Once we do live with Jesus, he offers us freedom, and freedom to rewrite our billboard and to claim his promise of living the way that he designed us to. And just in case you weren't sure, he designed us to live a life abundantly. I don't know where you're living in your life at the moment, and whether you feel that you're confined in a small box in your life and that you've kind of settled in some areas, or you're believing lies that people have always said about you and you're listening to the wrong voice. But wherever you find yourself, that doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all for you. That's not the standard God set, and that's not where you're going to have to stay. The exciting news is that if you just choose to invite God to come and live in your little house, no matter how small it is, he's going to do something great and give you freedom to choose. And I hope that you choose a life of abundance. As we finish up, the band's going to come up and they're going to start sharing a song with us, and it's going to become a bit of our theme song for the rest of our series. And I just want to read you guys some of the lyrics from it. It says, what you spoke is now unfolding. All your children shall behold it. Dreams awaken in this moment. Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. And it's a lot of words, but if you're thinking about it, what those words actually means, it's actually linking into what everything Jesus has promised for us to give us abundance. He promises that it's going to start unfolding. Dreams to be reawakened inside of us, for us to be able to start dreaming of something more again, for it to run over and overflow in this house, meaning in our lives, in the home that he has made in our hearts. It's a pretty powerful song, and when we sing it now, I'd love you guys just to think about where you're at, and if you are confined, and if you're settling and you're only living your life to half the potential.